Welcome to today's NACE Connect session, a conversation with NACE's Mentor of the Year and Catalyst and Rising Star Award winners. It is my pleasure to turn it over to our session presenters.
Hi, everybody. How are you? I hope everyone's doing well. I'm Shawn VanDerziel, the Executive Director of NACE, and I'm so pleased to be with you here today to help all of us get to know three really extraordinary people that we are celebrating who have won awards through the NACE Awards process. I'm so pleased to introduce each of them to you. And I'd like for each of them to come on up on the screen. So if they can enable their video, that would be great, and audio, so we can see them all. Hello, hi. It's so good to have you here. So we have 3 awards, and before we dive into each of the individual awards, I do want you all just to know who is on the line here. So I'd like for each of you just to tell the audience who you are, let us know, where you're from, where you're coming from, and what your job is. So let's just start there. Whitney.
All right. Well, again, thank you all so much for this award. And again, thank you for having us in this space for us to be recognized. I'm Whitney McDowell-Robinson. I serve as Director of Career Pathways and Career Services at Tougaloo College, which is a private HBCU in Mississippi. And so my work is around that realm. And I'm also a newly elected member of the board.
Great, thank you, Whitney. Nadine.
Hello, everybody. I'm Nadine Verna. Thank you, NACE, for this award. I am coming to you from New Jersey. I am Director of Career Services for Humanities and Social Sciences at Montclair State University. And I have been a member of NACE for quite some time. So this award is very meaningful. As part of my work, I work with liberal arts students to help them make the connection between their careers and their, pending their majors. So very exciting work.
Awesome, thank you, Nadine. All right, how about Kelsey?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Weissgold. I work at IBM. I've been there for about 4 years, and I'm on the early professional talent acquisition team. And I am based in Richmond, Virginia. I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelsey. Thanks for joining us. So let me tell you all what these awards are that we're celebrating today, okay? So I'm going to read the official description, and then we're going to start to talk with our panelists here today. So what we really want to accomplish today is for you to get to know these panelists and why they are being celebrated. So we're going to do a little question and answer throughout our time today. And I want to read to you what the awards are. So we are recognizing our Mentor of the Year, and that is Nadine. And Nadine is being recognized as an individual who selflessly demonstrates leadership and the ability to serve as a quality mentor to one or more individuals. We also have the NACE Catalyst Award, and the Catalyst Award is going to Kelsey. And Kelsey is being awarded as an HR recruiting individual with up to 4 years of experience in the HR recruiting field, who exemplifies excellence in leadership and has provided innovation in the field of human resources and recruiting. Work experience can be a combination of both career services and university relations. Then we have the NACE Spelman Johnson Rising Star Award, and that's awarded to, which is Whitney, and she's being awarded to as an individual who demonstrates strong leadership potential and contributions to career services and the profession and NACE. So delighted you're each with us here today. I should also say that 2 of these awards actually come with cash associated with them. And that is the Spelman Johnson Rising Star Award of $1,500. Thank you so much, Spelman Johnson, for sponsoring this award and continuing to help us to raise up the field and those who are up and comers in the field, and to celebrate all of their contributions. Thank you, Spelman Johnson. And the Catalyst Award also comes with a $1,500 cash award. So we're excited to be able to share that with our award winners as well. So let's dive into this and talk with each of you a little bit. We'll go back and forth and everything else. And I'd also like to interject some of the words and things that I've learned in the write-ups that were done from the various nominations. So I'm going to do that alongside of the questions. So I'm going to start with Nadine. And Nadine, before I do that, I do want to read a few things because there were so many nice things that were said about you. I want everyone to hear them, okay? So Nadine was nominated by Jeffrey Poulos, who works for Nadine. And this write-up was quite amazing. I'm going to read some excerpts from it so our audience can understand why she was nominated and then why the committee made the award. So Nadine is one of the most impressive supervisors and mentors I have worked with during my career. So says Jeffrey. Poised, empathetic, compassionate to a fault, and commitment to the success of students are all terms which come to mind in describing Nadine's character. Nadine is always willing to lend a helping hand to troubleshoot situations by serving as a soundboard. I've gained more confidence in my managerial skills and decision-making abilities due to her mentorship. In addition to Nadine's character, her encouragement to pursue professional development opportunities both within and outside my role cannot go unnoticed. So those are just a few things that were in that write-up, and I know as a supervisor probably means a lot to hear that. And tell me about that. Tell you how, when you hear those words and when you hear what Jeffrey's written, what's your reaction?
Well, it really feels nice because I know that some people will shy away from being supervisors because they think of all the challenges that come with it. But it has been very rewarding to me to help shepherd young talent in career services. And so I see, the challenges as a unique opportunity for me to grow. But more importantly, I emphasize all of the benefits that come with it. So, I really, I was blown away by, just finding out that Jeff wanted to nominate me. But I think it also requires a unique perspective to think of yourself as a mentor, especially in a supervisory position. And so, I think I like to focus more on the people above the performance, and I feel like the performance will follow. And that has been a great formula for me. I'm just a people person to the core. So it really matters that, and even, when we think about Gallup and some of the work that they've done, it really matters when, you care about the people that you work with. And that has been my experience. And it's also, it's been my experience giving it forward. And I feel like I've also received it as well. So I feel like I get so much more out of it than I give.
That's awesome to hear. And you raise an interesting distinction. You can just be a supervisor or a manager, right? But that's different than being a mentor. So can you talk to us a little bit about that? Like how or why have you made that distinction?
I know that, mentoring for me is a lot about the relationship. And that is one way that I feel motivated is when I have good relationships. So sure, some of it is also, like I said before, beneficial to me. But the reason that I've, been mentoring, in various capacities for so long is that, somebody reached out to me. Over 30 years ago, I had my first mentor, and I was in middle school, and someone from New York Telephone, a young professional, came to my, middle school in Brooklyn, New York, and really invested time. I remember getting my first journal and I've been journaling ever since. So impact, has been long lasting. And so I think I like to think of it as really helping shape people's lives, because especially when we think about work, work is one piece of it, but it's really people's livelihoods. People's lives are tied to their work, and so I try to think about how meaningful it can be if I just take some of that extra time and care to really nurture a relationship with someone that could potentially be lifelong.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I've got many more questions for you, but I'm going to do a little bit of a round robin here. And so we're going to come back to you. And other panelists, make sure you're writing down your questions too. So if you have questions for Nadine, and then Nadine, if you have questions for Whitney or Kelsey, would love to engage you all in that too as we go through. And so let me move over here to Kelsey. And Kelsey, you are being awarded this Catalyst Award. And I'd like to just read some of the accomplishments that we were made aware of and why the committee moved forward in this award based upon those accomplishments. And so within IBM, Kelsey has advanced quickly as a leader, growing her scope from a territory of local schools to a strategist on a global scale. She created several methodologies that have innovated the way IBM recruitment functions, including methodology to capture internal hiring needs and fund sourcing and selection activities. The approach has been globally adopted and endorsed by top HR leadership. She's also created methodology that's used to identify and prioritize universities for campus hiring, featured in the 2019 NACE presentation and adopted by HR departments outside of IBM. And she's designed dashboards and visualizations to summarize recruiting metrics. The approach also has been adopted globally and has resulted in improvements in the return on investment, the conversion acceptance rates for diversity hiring, NPS results, and many others. So great work, Kelsey.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us just generally about the passion that you have for your work. Where does that come from?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it started when I entered into the talent acquisition space. I did begin in a university recruiting role. So I had that territory of schools that I managed, and that's where I got really passionate about early professional hiring. I think it's just the idea of being able to jumpstart someone's career and really work with students who are finding their first entry into the corporate world. Students just have so much energy. They're not jaded yet. You're just really giving somebody an opportunity to set them on a course that could shape their life. So that has always energized me. And to my day-to-day nowadays, I am in a more global strategy role. I have less interaction on campuses or with students directly, but I do get a lot of energy just from working with the team I work with. It's a great group of people, and we get to solve some really complex problems within TA. So it's never a dull moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and so is there a particular accomplishment that you've had that really stands out that has fueled that passion?
Yeah, I think that one problem, and you spoke to it, the methodology I put in place to help IBM select what schools they're going to. And that was a really big moment when I got to share it at NACE and have it shared with my peers in the industry. I've had companies come up to me, through LinkedIn and such sense, and say they'd be able to use that and apply it at their companies and with their teams. So that's been a really proud moment. just to figure out something I've been able to cook up in-house and share it outside.
Wow. And that was because you were able to exclaim what you had done, right? And so through presentations and other methods?
Exactly. Yeah. It was a great showcase at the NACE conference last year to be able to show our methodology, explain how we use the data-driven strategy at IBM to kind of select our school list, and to package it in a way that other companies could pick it up and use it.
Awesome. Great. Well, I'm glad that that worked out. I mean, I know how that feels, you know, when someone shares with you that they've picked up a tidbit from you that's been really impactful, and someone that you don't even know, right? I mean, it really means something. So congratulations for that.
Thanks. Thank you.
That's amazing. Okay, I'm gonna move over to Whitney. And we've got Whitney here for this Rising Star Award. So I wanna say some amazing things about her too, from her nomination. And so I'm gonna read some outtakes from her nominator, Jeffrey Alston from East Tennessee State University. And here are some of the things it says. So Whitney is being nominated because of her relentless commitment to students, historically Black colleges and universities, and her pursuit to have representation within our professional association and its leadership. She's demonstrated a strong servant leadership style and the ability to move initiatives forward. She has also been a co-principal investigator on a $2 million 5-year UNCF grant funded by the Lilly Foundation. And then within NACE, she's with the addition of affinity impact teams to the Diversity, Inclusion, and Affinity Committee, Whitney graciously took on the role of co-chair and is leading this team of 75 plus professionals towards contributing to the outcomes of DEI. And lastly, seeing the lack of representation and leadership from an HBCU, Whitney seized an opportunity to become a director for the NACE board. The vision to become a board member doesn't happen without the rigorous work NACE has done she's done within the last 2 years, specifically focused on inclusion in the membership. So thank you, Whitney. We're so excited about all of your contributions. And tell us about that. Like, what, similar question to Kelsey, like what fuels you? Where does the passion come from? Obviously you're passionate based upon everything I just read.
So for me, growing up in Mississippi and then going and getting a 3-time HBCU graduate, and just understanding the students that I serve, understanding the area in which I live, and then more importantly, understanding that it's not always about being asked to have a seat at the table, but it's creating your own table. And so with all those different things, that's kind of what guides me in the work that I do with my students and then in the work that I do professionally. And so having an opportunity to serve as director for Career Pathways and Career Services, but then also having turned around and I served as president for the Mississippi ACE. And then I served as a state leader and consortia leader for the Southern Association of Colleges and Employers. So just being able to make sure that the representations at the table, of course, but also the HBCU voices are heard, which oftentimes are not heard. So that's what really drives me, that and wanting to make relationships and networking for my students, because I want for them more than what I had for myself.
Wow, well, what an inspiration. And you're just an overachiever to begin with. So, and I want to touch on that too, because you've gone on, you've got your bachelor's degree, you've got your master's degree, you've got your PhD. Tell us about that journey, like why and how?
Okay. Why? Because I come from a family of strong educators, but no one had really gone further than bachelor degrees, because where we are, it was kind of, that was a goal in itself. And so I wanted to, as you can say, I guess, be an overachiever, but I really wanted to be able to not only talk the talk, but walk the walk with my students. If we're in professions of career service professionals or recruiting university officials, we're asking students to have these different credentials, to be involved as much as possible, but are we actually living what we're sharing with them? And so I complete the master's in counseling, and then I thought about it. I was like, I think I'm just going to stop. And my boss, the president of our institution at that time, who's retired, was like, why are you stopping? This is the prime time. You know, at that time, it was just myself. And she was like, why are you stopping? Go ahead and complete. And so I started a doctoral program and then got married and had a child in the process. And so I think then for myself, that's what fueled me to actually complete and go on, is because my daughter, whose name is also Kelsey, she was born in that program. And now every day I get an opportunity to see her and let her see me and understand that, this is what you can do. And so not only wanting to be a leader or a rising star in the profession, but for my family, and most importantly for my daughter, who will turn 4 on Saturday. So it's just eventful.
It certainly is. And I love this. So we've got a theme here of mentorship. I love that. It sounds like you had a strong mentor in your boss who retired, yeah?
Yes. She was one of those individuals who pushed her staff and her peers to really do more. And even now with our current president, she came in and she was like, okay, so individuals, she was looking around the table. She was like, who wants to go on for higher education, further degrees? And everybody's kind of like, well, we do. She was like, okay, well, I have a partnership that I just established. So do you want your master's or do you want your doctorate? And so like our institution has always been about pushing the students, but now it's really pushing the faculty and the staff as well. And so I'm so appreciative of that.
That's amazing. And Nadine, I'm going to come back to you in a second because I want to tie all this in, these 3 questions I'm asking, these 2 questions I'm asking these other 2 folks. So I hope you're listening well, because I'm going to call on you. Kelsey, what role has mentorship played for you? I mean, you're being at IBM, and we've talked about this kind of being more of an early career person there, and so how do you find your way with that? Has there been someone who's been or people who have helped you along the way?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, it's a huge team effort. I do have one name in particular, my manager the past 4 years, Bridget. She's been a great champion for my career, and it's been a mentorship role where she knows how to catch me if I need her, but also gives a lot of trust to let me explore and grow things in a way I can, take confidence in myself. I think it's a great balance there. So getting a lot of support from her has really helped.
Yeah. So do you find, what are the things that you're getting from that relationship? Yeah. Like, can you think of like critical moments where you've found like, this is exactly what I needed from you, absolutely. Exactly at this moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a moment when I got promoted into a band or a new level within IBM, and I don't think I had the self-confidence to realize that I was in this new role, and she was seeing me as in a position that was more responsibility than what I had before. And so we were having a one-to-one mentoring conversation, and I don't know what she did, but she just flat out told me, Kelsey, you're in this new role. Like you can do this. And I was like, Bridget, you're right. I can do this. I mean, it wasn't anything overly complicated. She just reminded me that she believed in me and that she thought I could do it. It was very simple, but I needed to hear it. And her and I look back on that moment now and reflect on it. And sometimes when I lose my confidence, she reminds me of that moment. I think it was a small gesture that went a long way for me.
What a great lesson for all of us, right? What a great lesson. So Nadine, now I'm going to ask you to tie this back together again. When you hear, you're being celebrated as being a mentor of the year, and so obviously mentorship is really important to you. And you hear these stories that people have. How do you react to that? Like, what are the themes that are close to you related to even their stories?
It sounds as if, sometimes we think of mentoring as happening in formal ways. I'm in a mentoring program, and sure, there's a place for that. And those programs and opportunities can be wonderful. But I feel like sometimes the best mentoring can happen like in the moment where you are, without a formal mentor title or program attached to it. So what I'm hearing from Whitney and Kelsey is that there are people who were present and really paying attention to some of the progress that they were making, and took a risk by speaking even into areas that were not, particular to their work. So even encouraging someone to go back to school that may not have be seen as the primary job responsibilities. And then sometimes people may feel like, oh, that may take away from some attention or time, in terms of the primary responsibilities, but someone stepped in and just saw that it was something that could be beneficial, or, in supervisors kind of, asking the tough questions, like, why aren't you doing this? Or why not? And I have found that being compassionate in sometimes how you ask the tough questions, or taking a risk and speaking into an area doesn't seem immediately relevant, sometimes those open some of the greatest possibilities. So those are things that I have also benefited from, but also that I try to give back just because of the value that's there.
That's great. I love that. And you were, I saw you reflecting for a second too. We've been talking about you being the mentor. Was there someone who really helped you to understand what a mentor is?
Wow, there have been a lot of great people who have really helped lift me up throughout my career and my life. So, just as a blanket statement, thank you to all of those folks, who they are. But a recent mentor that I've actually found at my current institution, Montclair State, her name is Daphne Galkin. And I was doing a leadership development program at Rutgers University, and they asked me to identify someone, and I had heard her speak about authentic leadership, and that was an area that I wanted to develop more. So I reached out to her, and she was so gracious in saying yes. But one of the things that stood out to me about her was that she actually, one of our first meetings, she actually talked about an embarrassing moment, and or a mistake that she made. And I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. I thought she was gonna kind of present the shiny, the pretty and the shiny. But she actually talked about something really embarrassing that happened and how she had to just kind of get up and keep moving on. And I think that so much can be learned from people's mistakes, or the way that they pivot after doing something wrong, or something embarrassing happening. So that's something that I'm definitely trying to utilize more and more as I grow in my profession.
Well said. Well said. Whitney, let's riff on that a little bit. Thinking about this idea of these accomplishments that you've had, where you're pushing things forward and you're making a real difference, and sometimes that's really hard work. I mean, it's tough stuff. And how do you what do you do in those moments where you're like, am I in over my head? Or we all have those doubts at some point, right? Or
Yes.
How am I going to get through? How am I going to get creative with this one? Like, how do you push through that?
So the first thing I do is I surround myself with individuals who are supportive. And what I mean by that is not individuals who tell me what I want to hear or what they think I want to hear, but individuals who will give me creative feedback and authentic feedback. Because I'm just going to be like, just straight honest, even with the board position. I saw the emails come from NACE. I'm like, okay, that goes to the NACE folder. And then like the next reminder came out about, hey, if you want to join the board, and I was like, okay, go to the NACE folder. So I'm moving all of them to the NACE folder. And finally, someone reached out who is a great mentor in NACE, and I love him to death. And he reached out and he said, have you applied for the board? Have you considered it? Because I know what all you've done in your state and your regional area. And I was like, yeah, but I don't think I'm good enough for that. And I said, I don't see a lot of HBCU representation, and I don't know how I will be received. And that was just the blanket conversation. And he replied back with a dissertation, it felt like, of why I not only should apply, but that was the kind of thing that he was glad to hear me say, was that I was uncomfortable, but he was going to help me be comfortable. And so with that, I reached out, I went ahead and I applied. And so from applying, I was just really, truly just humbled, really, but to have the opportunity to do this, knowing that I have individuals who support me in a support system, not only my institution, not only my family, but within NACE, because I'm still new, semi-new to NACE. From that standpoint of being involved in volunteerism for the last, 2 or 3 years, but to have someone in that position, and then of course with Marilyn, she was also supportive. We've had many conversations with UNCF as her serving as a member of the board for UNCF. And so just having those kind of conversations with those two particularly really helped me feel a little bit more confident in myself and what I can do.
Absolutely. I mean, and we keep getting these themes here of, people make a real difference in other people's lives along the way, right? And that's what really keeps us moving forward. And Kelsey, similarly for you, I want to take it from a different angle in terms of, being this idea of, being a catalyst and other ideas. How do you make your voice known? Like, how do you push through it?
Yeah.
How do you, because sometimes it's hard to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was, what you were saying was really resonating with me. I know I've struggled with it at times, the idea of like imposter syndrome and just figuring like, should I speak up in this room? Do I actually feel like, do I know enough to speak up in this room? And I love what you said earlier too, about making a seat at the table. Like, don't feel like you don't deserve that. If you're in the room, make yourself known. And I think something I kind of lead into early in my career is the idea of just like speaking up and saying yes to opportunities and letting opportunities come my way and not saying no to them. And then even if I didn't know what I was saying yes to, or didn't really felt like I had expertise in that area, the more times you say yes to an opportunity, you end up developing expertise. So I feel like I've become a subject matter expert in early professional hiring, just by nature of like adding opportunities and projects on top of each other. And then once I have that kind of a critical mass, I have more confidence that I can speak up and I have a voice.
Mm-hmm. Are there any times, is there an example you might be able to provide us where you felt like you really were able to push through that obstacle and felt so good about it?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think I'm touching back on this one again, but when we made the methodology for how we select schools, it was an obstacle because we hadn't really done it before. And IBM didn't really have a standard methodology for it. And I came at it through a lens of like, let's apply data to this problem and make it quantitative, which was a little bit challenging because you had to, get over that hurdle of explaining this to people, explaining how it is a little more objective of an assessment. And once it landed, it landed. I think people got it. And that was a proud moment.
Absolutely. Whitney, tell us about a proud moment for you. I listed a bunch of things that you've been involved with and that you're pushing forward on. Is there something that really stands out where you're like, gosh darn it, I'm really proud of this one? And tell us why.
Well, I think of course, the biggest one is when you mentioned me with the $2 million grant with UNCF funded by the Lilly Endowment, because you're talking about someone who is a millennial and who oftentimes, we're seen in the negative light of wanting everything quick, wanting everything fast, not wanting to be, listen and whatever. And so when that opportunity was presented, I was thinking, oh, wow, like, no, I'm not going to step into that territory, although I knew it would be great for our students because that is a grant and an initiative that strongly focuses on preparing African-American students for workforce readiness. It helps make sure that they are exposed to employer opportunities, to faculty development, and in strengthening the curriculum, just along the line of everything. And when it was presented, I was like, yeah, so I know I'm like over that area, but can somebody else maybe do it? And it came back, it was like, yeah, no, we want you to do it. And we're going to help you do it because that's the way that you really learn. And so I was, okay, I'll do it. And so we did it. And now we're going into year 4. And we have seen a curriculum revamp of our entire campus. We've seen faculty development change. We've seen curriculum change, technology change. We've seen students be exposed to so much more. And even from the standpoint of now we're looking like, okay, we have other people who are coming up to the table and saying, so we saw what great work you did with that. So we want you to write for this endowment. And so more recently, about a month ago, I was awarded another endowment for $200,000 only for internships. And it helps students get to internships, help them with sustainability, to take away all the barriers. And so I think from that first one, them kind of like, no, we want you to do this, has kind of catapulted me into opportunities of, okay, now they know I can't just sit here. They know that I can do something, right? And so now I can't be scared. They're not going to settle for it. And so now it's just looking for opportunities to keep giving more for my students, because we have students who are about 89 to 90% who are Pell eligible, meaning these students are coming from environments where they need educational support or they need funding to help them. And these are wonderful students. They just need the opportunity and sometimes the funds to do it. And so just having this kind of opportunity to do this and this platform to do this is really helping my students. So that's what I'm really proud about.
Well, it's kind of addicting, right? Once you do something that you see really positive results from, you're like, I got to do more of that.
Well, yeah, because when I saw the next one, I was like, oh, I've already done that. Let me do this one too. And so now it's like I'm knocking down the door for our sponsor programs. I'm like, hey, y'all have any other grants you want me to look at? I really want to keep it because our institution is private. And that means that we are tuition driven and we're friend raising driven, not fundraising, but friend raising. And so any opportunity where I can help supplement our institutional impact to even do more, I'm willing to do it. And so now that first piece there really kind of gave me that push that I needed.
Amazing, amazing. Nadine, I'm going to turn to you, and I want to ask you about Proud Moments too. And we're talking about this mentorship. Have there been moments of mentorship where you've felt particularly proud, either because of a synergy that happened, or because of the outcome, and someplace somebody went, or something somebody did?
It's funny because I feel like there's so much of that. There's so much of that when you look at growth in people's lives. It's really rewarding. I think that's why I've been in career services for as long as I have, because, it's nice to see people win, and to see people's lives changed, and to see people grow. So there's a lot of that. But I will say, generally speaking, the things that I have found the most rewarding in terms of mentorship have been the work that I've done when it comes to, somewhat what we might consider the underdogs,
Mm-hmm.
In my university, there are students who are, who are in the EOF program, who are, maybe first generation or underrepresented, or, from low income backgrounds. And some of the work that I do with them is particularly rewarding because, they already start off in a way at a deficit, because there's maybe lack of, that social capital, they don't know. And so it's really rewarding to see some of those folks kind of move forward. There is one young lady that I worked with in my first year at Montclair State. And she, of course, sometimes people think, also with regards to liberal arts, they, they have concerns about what's next for this, this person. How do you identify that? But this young woman, she decided that she wanted to go on to grad school. She actually decided to go into higher ed, but her applications were pretty late, and she decided that wanted to pursue education at Teachers College. And, you know, she was running up against that deadline, and I worked with her on her personal statement, and she got in. And she had some other opportunities, but, you know, she decided that she wanted to go there. She actually was able to make the choice. And I think one of the things that was rewarding, you know, I met her, you know, during my first week on campus, you know, in the EOF office. And then we built a relationship, and I was able to kind of help support her as she made the choice about where she wanted to go. And so I think that's really rewarding for me, is when you kind of shift from just what's given to them or the only option that's available to them to really being able to choose.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'd like to ask each of you the same question, which is just because you're all fascinating and have so much to offer and are all, you know, as I kidded with Whitney, she's an overachiever, you all are. And so I'm interested in hearing kind of what's next for you. Like, what are the things that each of you are thinking about, just whether it's personally or professionally, the kinds of goals that you're setting for yourself? Like, what are some of those next things for you? Who'd like to go first?
I'll
Whitney?
go first. Okay.
All right.
So I just actually had this conversation not too long ago with Valerie, who was with Spelman Johnson, because after I was awarded, then of course we want to have a conversation so they would have an understanding of who they're investing in, because I really took, and I take a lot of pride with the fact that I was recognized for this opportunity. And so one of the things that I shared with her was, for me, my next steps are, I want to be in a position where I can do even more. Oftentimes we may find our hands a little tied when we're on certain levels where we're not able to be able to really impact the kind of change we want to see. And so short term, of course, I would love to be a vice president of student affairs. I've already kind of done shadowing previously as an AVP. And so for me to actually have my own space to really be creative and to really help students more, that's what I'm looking for in a long-term type goal. But for right now, I just really want to continue to push what we're doing, because we're seeing our students, as far as what career pathways and career services is doing, we're seeing our students being helped with retention. And so it's having impact in ways that we may not have initially thought of it. And so I want to continue to see this out until I am given or put in another, you know, place or another path to take. And then personally, just to continue to enjoy life, you know, with everything that's going on in the world, whether you're talking about COVID or you're talking about racial inequalities, or you're just all these things that are happening. We need to enjoy life and family to the extreme. And so I already do a lot of traveling, but I want to do more with my family to ensure that we have those kind of memories so we don't look back and regret anything. And so those are my two, you know, my personal and my professional, that I want to do in the near future.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Who'd like to go next?
I don't
Kelsey?
mind. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So I think on the professional side, I do long-term career goals. I see myself hopefully leading an organization's professional recruiting team and strategy for an operating organization. I think short-term, just growing my career in that direction, and going to take a page out of Whitney's book and hopefully continue my education. I think that's super impressive. Would love to have that on my bucket list as well. And then on the personal side, I have had an opportunity to help with organizations in my community, specifically with folks who are in temporary housing or in shelter housing, and help them do resume workshops or interview workshops to really help them figure out how to get their next job or their next opportunity. And I'd love to one day, like personally, either work more with an organization or even start my own nonprofit that helps give folks those kind of skills they need to find meaningful employment when they've had a setback. I think that's on my to-do list as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Nadine.
So Shawn, I have to say, I am in such good company on this panel. You guys are like rock stars. They're not stopping either. So I'm so inspired and so impressed. I feel like, you know, I'm taking notes for myself, you know, and I think that's part of, you know, the spirit of this panel, is that we had to give to each other at different stages and different places. And I think that's what some of the value of the connection is, or connecting with other people. I think what's next for me in terms of professional projects, so two things that are kind of like in the pipeline. I'm going to be working with, we have a program called Red Hawk Fellows, which works with students who have been under state care, who are about to become independent, or may have some fragile situations like that. So I'm going to work with some of them on career planning, which I'm really excited about, because sometimes these students already have to think about adult things, even though they're so I'm really excited to develop some of that that work. I'm also planning to work with our disability services unit to think about, how to help folks with different types of, physical learning, mental disabilities, pursue work, good work. And so that's something that's gonna, that's in partnership with some other offices that I'm really excited about. Personally, I love what Whitney said about live life. I am really passionate about work-life issues, and the whole idea of working to live, not living to work. And so I am going to be pursuing, or I am pursuing, doctoral studies, and that's one of the areas that I hope to do research on and contribute as a scholar in the future. I see definitely my, my research interests tying into my role as an administrator, but I think that there's so much of that work as an administrator that can benefit from good research and good data. So hopefully I get to use one hand to wash the other.
Well, you were being so humble earlier. And all I can say is that you're just as much of an achiever as the other two. It's so inspiring. Like, I feel like I don't know, I need to start making many more lists. I have to, like, something. Okay, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'd like to also do one more round robin before we wrap things up here today, which is just to ask you any advice that you have, particularly related to knowing what your award was about, each of you, and thinking about that award and what that means, and what advice would you have for others related to the award that you've received here today. So how about Nadine? We'll start with you.
One thing that struck me in listening to the other women on this panel was just how folks experienced imposter syndrome at different stages in their career and their education. And, that's something that I've also struggled with. I actually sent, an announcement and a thank you about receiving this award, which is really meaningful to me, not just because of who nominated me, but because sometimes there's different challenges that we encounter, even just the whole idea of, change that was part of the title of this panel, when higher education can be very volatile. And as you're going through different change, sometimes there's some things that are really difficult. But I've really tried to maintain, my value system and try to be who I am in the midst of all of that change, even if I try to be adaptable and flexible. And sometimes that's really difficult, and I feel like when we think about this imposter syndrome, just embracing the idea that you can come as you are, who you are, and there's going to be something there for somebody. And what you have is enough. So I think I would definitely say that to encourage, Kelsey and Whitney, keep moving, because what you have is exactly what somebody needs. And so it's just about finding that link. But it's also an encouragement to everybody who's listening as well, that, don't worry about what you don't have. It's really what you have that's gonna make you stand out, uniquely, and maybe benefit others who need it.
Do you do keynote addresses for a living or something? I mean, you need to like bring this on the road.
Well, I haven't, but you know what I said, making the announcement, I was scared to make an announcement to share, but it's just because this award was so meaningful to me. I'm like, okay, let me put it out there. Hopefully the links work, but I really don't, as a general practice, do that as much. But I guess even in speaking to you, I'm challenging myself that I'm going to put myself out there a little bit more, because hopefully I'll be able to encourage somebody else through it. But I was really scared. I was really scared, and I felt like I didn't want to, you know, I hardly ever post. I just celebrate others, but it's a new day.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm glad we get to celebrate you here today. Kelsey, what advice do you have to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in the spirit of my award, it kind of harkens to people who are early in their careers, figuring things out, maybe making a change in their industry, but kind of in the early stages. And I think I spoke to this earlier, but something to highlight is just advice I would have is to say yes to opportunities that come your way. Don't say no. Don't think you can't do it and so you turn it down. Say yes and learn how to do it. Say yes again, put in good work. Your work will speak for itself, and then you'll develop expertise. I think part of this award too leans into the idea of innovation. And something I've had to remind myself of is when you're innovating, you're gonna lose sometimes. It's not gonna hit every single time. Mm-hmm. But instead of looking at it as wins and losses, look at it as like wins and lessons, because there's something to take out of every single one of those times where it didn't land. So I need to remind myself that sometimes. I think that's advice I would pass on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of us need that reminder on a
yeah. Taking a win or a loss is hard, but it's a lesson, not a loss.
That's right. That's right. I love that. Thank you. And Whitney, advice that you might have.
I would give the same advice that I give when we have our HBCUs affinity impact teams and other sessions, is just to get involved. It's so easy sometimes for us to sit back and to speculate or to talk about what we could be doing better, or what someone else can be doing better, instead of getting involved. And so I challenge individuals in our teams and others just to get involved, to do more. Whether that's starting on a volunteer level and working your way up, not only in NACE, but within our state and our regional associations, but also just getting involved more at where you work and where you are. I have really kind of gained a lot of information and feedback and friendship just by doing a little bit more, and not meaning doing a little bit more like overworking myself, but a little bit more to learn more about what others are doing. Because when we really truly get involved and we really truly know what others are going through day to day, then we can be a little bit more empathetic, and then we can also be a little bit more willing to jump in and kind of jump in with our hands ready to go. And to work. And so just get involved. So I've had several people who sent me messages like on LinkedIn or in Facebook and said, hey, I really listened to what you said, and I signed up, and now I'm volunteering to help with this in NACE, or I'm helping to volunteer with this in SOACE. So just get involved, because if you are sitting back, then realistically you're part of the problem, because the advice and the wisdom and the resources that you have that are individually unique to yourself will never be able to experience that. And so we ask you to bring that to the table.
Awesome. Very practical advice and inspirational along the way. So thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for participating today. Your authenticity and your willingness to share your stories really mean a lot, and will make a difference in everyone's lives who are listening in with us today. So really appreciate that. And one of the reasons that we are doing the award sessions the way that we are is because we wanted to be able to record them so that others can listen in who aren't able to make it. And so anyone who is listening today, I hope that you will share once these get up back onto our website with others so that they can hear these stories as well. I want to share them as wide as we can. So hopefully you'll help us to do that. And thank you to Spelman Johnson for the sponsorship of our Rising Star Award. And thank you, panelists, so much. We so much appreciate you. And it was great that all of our audience members joined us. We appreciate you too. and we will see you all again sometime soon, hopefully. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.